Last week has been very volatile. I mean, I saw a news on social media about a finance analyst who suggested that Trump might want to crash the dollar. In fact, he said Trump wants to crash the dollar, and that is to boost the trade system in the US and see more export than import. I think this is correct. If you look at the tariffs and the trade wars and the retaliation from other countries, China and the rest of them, it's been taking its toll on the US dollar. And if we look at the dollar index, we see that it has experienced massive, huge drop. All right. This is a weekly time frame. If we see that is a long bearish candle closing below this area of support that we've been monitoring over the period of weeks now. If you notice that last week, if you remember clearly, there was this gap that was created in the market here, just right about here, and we had said that we were expecting for this market to come, cover it up, and then maybe see it move to the upside. In fact, I was expecting that this market will come to test this resistance area before I will see either a move to the downside or maybe the market will continue to the upside. But the economic news that came out last week with the trade systems and the Trump trying to crash the dollar has seen this massive drop on the dollar index. I mean, see, look at it, long bearish candles forming. And of course, it broke this area of support. And then in the opening of the market on Friday, we saw a jump. We saw a clear area here that, a clear jump on the market. And it formed another bearish candle, but it seems that the buyers came into the market to push it up, and we might begin to see some form of retracement in the coming week. We saw two bullish candle closing, and then it looked like the market is going to push down again. But I'm expecting that in the coming week there's going to be at least a close of this gap that was formed here. If we look at it, I'm thinking that there will be a close on this gap formed in this area. Of course, let's expect that this market will at least come to push up, cover this gap, and then maybe continue to push the downside. I mean, if there's been a 90-day pause. America has announced a 90-day pause to reevaluate the entire system. But I'm thinking that if we look at the weekly time frame, and then we'll see that there's been a monthly trend line that's been formed over the period of years, all right? And it seems that this market is maybe coming down to test this area of support now. This trend line might become the new area of support that I'm looking forward to. So guys, if you ask me what this market wants to do, I think this market will definitely come down to test this trend line before a reversal pattern will begin to come into play. But that's not the clear look now, because this might take weeks and months to happen. But looking clearly in the 4-hour time frame, you're seeing, like I've just said, that it seems the buyers are pushing this market back to the upside, and then there might be a close of this space before this market either continues to push to the downside or maybe begins to see its way to correct all of these imbalances that has been formed in the last week. So the move in the week coming is going to inform what is going to happen with the rest of the currency pairs. I mean, with the dollar index in them. But guys, let's clearly monitor this market and watch what is going to happen. I know that with the current market conditions and the economic news, let's just watch out for them. Watch out for economic indices that is going to move this market. Let's not be quick to judge what is going to happen. The market has been completely not respecting any zones for the rest I know. I mean, with the whole trade system, with the whole Trump system, the market has not been giving us any chart patterns that is either bullish or bearish. It is being very inconsistent. So we're going to be trading carefully and looking at what indices are coming out in the week and what is going to happen to take the best possible trades. All right. But what I know and what I can say in the coming week is that I know that there's going to be a close-up of this gap that has been formed, and then a test of this area of resistance before we begin to see the market move in either direction. If you look at the EURUSD as well experienced a very massive push to the upside. I mean, it moved to the upside and it came to this area of resistance and it began to see a rejection. If we look, we see that there's an area of resistance here. Let me mark this out. Let me mark this out. So this is support and resistance line, right? So if you notice that it pushed up, greatly moved to the upside, came to this area of resistance and rejected. Guys, the Euro USD, if we remember last week, we've been completely forecasting that this market will come back to at least balance this area that is being created here. Of course, we are looking for a clear balance of this gap that was formed here, but unfortunately the market pushed greatly to the upside. That's why I say, and I keep saying, that if we're trading in the forex market, you follow the flow of the market. You don't expect the market to do exactly what you want it to do, even though we see inefficiencies in the market and expect that the market is going to come back to correct those inefficiencies. But economic news might come out, trade wars might come out, and things might happen, and the market would take a certain direction in the market that you didn't expect. So you trade according to the flow of the market, right? But because of this large move that we saw, it took out a lot here. If you notice, guys, all of the liquidities that has been generated in these places has been taken out, right? And this area of resistance has been tested. Okay, so what I'm expecting to happen in the coming week is some sort of retracement. At least we're going to see a retracement. If I go to the 4-hour time frame, we're expecting a retracement to at least come back to this area, right? This area that had formed a little bit of resistance in the last week. Of course, we're going to be looking forward to what is going to happen. I for one, I'm expecting to see a certain retracement to this point before this market either continues to move to the upside, all right, or maybe push to the downside as well and come to test this other area of resistance here before it begins to push to the upside. Okay, so if I go to the 15 minutes time frame, you notice that after this market came to test this area of resistance and some bearish structure is beginning to form, we can see a clear lower low here and form a lower high and then a lower low here, and then of course maybe it wants to make another lower high before it begins to push to the downside. So guys, let's just carefully watch the flow of the system. What I'm going to be looking forward to in the coming week, if I want to take a trade with the Euro USD, what I'm expecting to happen is, if I go to the 5 minutes time frame, you notice clearly that's a fair value gap that is formed here. And guys, I'm going to be thinking that this market will come to clean up this fair value gap before it begins to push to the downside. I will just call this area of I call this a supply zone, right? Okay, so guys, for me, what I'm looking forward to do in the coming week is to wait and see if this market is going to come to test this area. Okay, if it comes to this supply zone, I'm going to take a trade to the downside. That will be the market I'm looking to take in the coming week. But of course, I'm going to be very watchful. What I'm expecting is that all the liquidities that has been formed in this area, right? All of this liquidity, I'm expecting that the market will come to swipe all of them, right? I'm expecting the market to come and swipe all of this liquidity and then pick close this fair value gap and then begins to push to the downside. Of course, as well, one can say that this is a demand zone as well. So I'll just be clearly looking at what is going to happen with these two zones. So by the time the market comes to this supply zone, I'm able to look for a particular trade to the sell side and see if I can catch some trade to that point. All right, but guys, just let's keep our eyes open and watch what's going to happen in the coming week. I think there's going to be some form of retracement with the Euro USD, as I'm expecting the dollar index to go up to the upside and cover the gaps that's been created in the last week in the market. So if they remember, if the Euro USD is almost an opposite trade of what is happening with the dollar index. If the dollar index is going up, we expect the Euro USD to push to the downside. If the Euro USD is pushing to the downside, we expect if the dollar index is pushing to the downside, we expect the Euro USD to push to the upside. So if I'm expecting that the dollar index is going to go up to cover those gaps, then I'm expecting that there's going to be a push to the downside in the coming week. But before that happens, I'm thinking that there might be a peak from this fair value gap or maybe this demand zone before we begin to see this market move to the downside, right? GBPUSD as well had a massive move to the upside. But before it started moving, if you remember, guys, if I go to the 4-hour time frame, there was this area of liquidity have been forecasting and expecting the markets to come to swipe. If you remember, guys, we've marked out this area of liquidity in the last weeks, and we were expecting that the GBPUSD will come down to swipe it before it begins to go up, and it did come to swipe it. I was expecting it to actually come to this area of support, but it didn't get to that area of support. It got to this place, took the liquidity, and began to make its massive move to the upside. All right, in the coming week, I'm expecting a certain retracement because this move was quite massive. In its part, it has created some fair value gaps in its part and disrespected all of them and did not respect them at all. But if you notice that it had come to this area of it has come to this fair value gap here, and it looks like it's respecting this one, and it wants to begin to push to the downside. All right, so in the coming week, I'm expecting to see a GBPUSD that will continue to push to the downside until it maybe comes to test this area of support. This is what I'm expecting to happen with the GBPUSD. Is a GBPUSD that will come down and test this area before it begins to push to the upside. The USD, of course, is going to move to the upside. The pound had become quite stable, and it's gaining more power over the dollar. Since the dollar is going and pushing down and going all the way to the downside, the GBPUSD will see a massive move to the upside because it's getting stronger and it's getting better. Okay, and if we look at the USDJPY as well, remember we've been putting this currency pair in the mix since, and of course in the last week we saw that this market created a sort of an imbalance in the market. There's a huge gap that was formed in the last week when the market opened. And if we go to the forward time frame, you see that this imbalance was created just right about here. If you notice how this market has pushed all the way to the upside with this candle, this massive bullish candle, and of course it's coming back down again. It didn't respect it, it didn't pick it up, it pushed all the way to the downside. What I'm expecting to happen with the USDJPY is to see a push to the upside before it continues to push downside. Of course, I'm going to be looking at what is going to happen, and I think this market will come to swipe all of this and come to test this area before it begins to go down. Guys, if you notice, there's this some sort of resistance I'm going to expect to happen with this market just right about here. Guys, I'm expecting some form of resistance that will happen here. Okay, so in the coming week, I'm expecting USDJPY to push to the upside and then come to test this area of resistance before it begins to go to the downside. Of course, we know that this market is gearing to come to this point, but of course, we're going to watch it closely because the first thing this market might do is maybe come down first here, test this area of support before it begins to push back to this area of resistance. But I'm expecting, because the dollar index is going to be a bit bullish because it needs to cover that gap was created, that bullishness might just see this market come to this area of resistance before it begins to come to the downside. So guys, let's clearly watch what is going to happen in the coming week. Of course, in all of these currency pairs, I'm not particularly looking to take a trade at this moment. Of course, I'm going to be watching what is going to happen because the market has been very volatile, not in a certain direction, but we're going to be watching the flow of the markets to see the best possible trade setups to take. If we look at gold had made another higher high, right? Gold has pushed up to the upside, but before gold left to the upside, we remember clearly we had, of course, forecasted that gold will come to this area. We expected that gold will come to this area, okay? And that's exactly what gold did, and it was a massive trade for me. Of course, I took this trade because, as I said, if you remember, if you can go back to check my last analysis for last week, I had said that if gold is going to go up, that I'm expecting gold to at least push and bounce and come to this area of support before it begins to push up, and that's exactly what gold did. So when gold came here, I actually took a trade, but I didn't stay in that trade longer because when this trade started pushing to the downside, the trade I took for last week, I waited for this market to come. When this market came to this point, I took a trade, but when it started retracing, I left that trade because I didn't hold up to it any longer. I didn't know what market was going to do. I should have entered this trade when I saw this massive bullish candle engulfing almost all of the retracement that had happened, but I didn't go back to the market because I thought this market was going to apparently become bearish. I was expecting to see, a bearish form, a very structured form before I can take a trade, but the market, pushed to the upside. and then continues to move to the upside. But in the coming week, I'm not expecting that gold will push all the way high again, because of course market needs some liquidity before it begins to make its move. So remember, this is the last higher high that was made by gold. I'll just mark it out here. All right, so I'm expecting that this market might not push beyond this level. If I go to say the 15 minutes time frame, I will just be looking forward to see if I can take a trade if this market comes to break this area. Of course, I'm going to mark out this area of resistance and support. Okay, so my possible trade setup with gold next week will be to look forward to see if this market is going to come down to break this area. Once it breaks this area and comes back to test it, of course guys, I'm looking forward to take a trade on gold from this point. Okay, I'm looking to go short any moment from here, and I'll put my stop loss just above this level. All right, just somewhere here, and I will look to take maybe this trade to this next area of support. All right, of course, just mark out this place. This is going to form some level of support and resistance in the market in the coming week if the trade begins to push to the downside. But all in all, I'll be looking to take this trade up until this area. Right? If I go down to say, if I go up to the 1 hour time frame, I'll be looking to see that this area of support and resistance might just hold. This might be where, if gold breaks this place, I'm going to be looking forward that gold will push all the way to the downside until it gets to this area of support before it begins to push to the upside. So guys, let's carefully watch what's going to happen in the coming week with gold. All right, so guys, it's been very volatile week. I mean, this last week was not quite very volatile, but it's not, I won't say it's the best favorable condition for most traders, because it's been a lot of irregularities in the market, especially with Trump and with what's been happening in the trade system. So guys, if we're going to be taking any trades, I'm carefully going to advise that we look at the economic news coming out, look at economic factors, indices, and then begin to monitor the chart, follow the flow. The flow will just be to see where the market is pushing to. Of course, markets will continuously respect support and resistance areas. So if you're taking a trade, you'll be looking for the next area of resistance or the next area of support if you're selling, to be able to get out of the market. Or if you want to take a trade to the upside, you'll be looking if the market is going to bounce from an area of support. As if it's going up, you take a trade from there to go to the upside. That's basically support and resistance trade strategy. And then of course I'm a massive trend line trader, but if you notice, the market has not been giving me any clear trend line indices or giving me any clear trend line charts. The market has been very irregular. It's not been any clear bullish structure, higher high, lower high, or lower low, lower high. No structures are not been forming. The market has been reacting massively to the entire inconsistencies with the trade system and Trump and all of that. Okay, so in the coming week, guys, please look forward to careful trading. Don't over leverage your account. And then of course, remember, this week we're coming in is the week I've promised to start to post my live trade. So all my live trade that's going to be posted this week. So in this week, it's guaranteed that all the trade setups I'm going to be taking is coming in. So look out for it. I'm creating another separate playlist where I'm going to be dropping all the trades that I take with all of the analysis and the decisions that informs whatever I take. And you'll see clearly how I follow the market, how I follow the flow of the market, and how I take my trades, go in, take quick trades, and get out of the market before it begins to reverse and go against you. Be careful out there, guys, and I will see you next week. Bye.